Come on.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time stopping by, my name is Mackenzie and I am so glad that you're here. Today I'm going to start a new series on my channel called Makeup Basics, where we're going to strip it all down and we're going to go right back to the basics of makeup, and I'm going to teach you the simple beginner techniques. Today I'm kicking off the series with Eyeshadow 101, and I'm going to share all of my steps and tips with you on how to have the best eyeshadow application. I'm really excited about today's video because it is a collab with Kinsey Mac Brown here on YouTube. I met Makinze on Instagram. Yes, we have the same name, and that is the first time that I have ever been friends with someone with the same name as me in my 26 years of life. Isn't that crazy? But Makinze is so sweet. She is definitely one of the kindest, most genuine people that I have met through social media and YouTube so far. She loves Jesus, she loves makeup, and she loves Disney. So if you love any or all three of those things, you are gonna absolutely love her and her channel. Over on Makinze's channel, Kinsey Mac Brown, she is doing a foundation 101 video where she's gonna talk you through how she applies her foundation and give you some tips and tricks for choosing the right foundation. A link to her video is in the description box down below. So after you watch this video, be sure to head over to Kinsey Mac Brown and get the 101 on the basics of foundation. Be sure to subscribe to her channel while you're there. I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely love the opportunity to support genuine, real, authentic people and just empower them to be lights into the world, because that's what the world needs, is more authentic, real people, and that's exactly what Makinze is. So for me personally, eyeshadow was the hardest skill to really learn and grow in. I think that it's a lot harder than it looks to get really smooth, even blended, awesome eyeshadows. So I'm just gonna share my tips and tricks with you, walk you right through the steps that I do to get the best eyeshadow application. In my opinion, the most important things you need to have for getting an awesome eyeshadow application are the right brushes, a good eyeshadow formula, and the patience to blend it all out until it's blended evenly. Sometimes it takes a while to blend it out and to get it right, but I promise you, if you are willing to be patient enough to really blend out your eyeshadows, it's gonna really, really improve the look. I have a few terms that I'm gonna use quite a few times in this video, so if you're new to makeup, you might not know those, so I just wanted to explain those really fast before we jump in. The first one is inner corner. So right where your tear duct is, right where your eye meets your nose, that is the inner corner of your eye. The lid of your eye is this space right here from the inner corner all the way to the outer corner. The crease is the area where your lid meets the hollow of your brow bone. So if you feel where your brow bone ends, where your lid begins, right there in that hollow groove is your crease. The outer corner, or the outer V of your eye, is this area right here. Imagine that you put the letter V on the outside of your eye. That is your outer corner, or your outer V. And then your waterline is the area right above your bottom lashes. So when we talk about smoking out the waterline, your waterline is technically the skin right above your lashes, but when we smoke that out, we're gonna go right below the lashes. In my opinion, you don't have to have a ton of brushes to get an awesome eyeshadow application. The first one I suggest is a larger blending brush, so you can see how large that brush is. This is the Morphe M504, and this is a great brush for setting your eye and adding transition colors. Next, you want to have a blending brush that is a little smaller and a little more dense than the larger one. This is the Morphe E22. So this is it right next to the first one. So you can see that it's still fluffy and tapered like the other one, but it's just a little bit smaller. This is gonna allow you to have more of a precise application right into the crease. Then for my makeup personally, if I'm doing a cut crease look, or if I wanna get right directly into the crease, I love this Morphe M562. It's a very, very small blending brush. For applying color on the lid of your eye, you can use your finger, you can use a blending brush, or you can use a small flat brush like this Wet n Wild concealer brush. So it's just flatter, and it's gonna allow you to really pack on the pigment on your lid. If you're gonna apply color to your lower lash line, then I suggest a pencil brush. Any pencil brush will work. This one is the Morphe M431. And it's just a really small detailed brush that allows you to get right under that lash line. And then the last brush that I like to have handy when I'm doing my eyeshadow is a clean blending brush, so I can really blend out the edges. And this is one of the brushes that I typically use for that, and it is the Morphe M441. You don't have to get those exact brushes. Brushes similar to those will be just as great, but I do think it's important to invest in some really good brushes. Before we hop in, I just want to go over the different types of eyeshadows that you can work with. You can work with pressed eyeshadows, which is what I'll be using in this video. You can work with cream eyeshadows, and you can also work with loose pigments. So the type of eyeshadow that you're using will affect the way that you want to apply it. So today I'm just going to be talking about pressed shadows. The first step to an awesome eyeshadow application is having a really smooth, even base. So you can use an actual eyeshadow primer to prime your eyes, or you can use a concealer. A lot of times I'll use concealer because I'm already putting it on my face anyways, so it's one less step. It's just easier for me. So I haven't put any on today just so I could show you, but I'm going to go ahead and dot some of my Rimmel Match Perfection concealer on my eyelids and then blend that in with my beauty blender. And the point of priming your eyes, whether you use a concealer or an actual eyeshadow primer, is to cover any discoloration you might have in your eyelids, whether it's veins or dark spots. By priming your eyes and evening out the discoloration on your eyelids, you're going to allow your eyeshadows to show up a lot more true to color because you're having a solid, even base to apply them on. The next step in priming your eyes and having a smooth, even base is setting your primer. You can use a translucent powder to do this, or you can use a really light colored shadow, really similar to your skin tone. I'm going to use the Tarte Tartelette and Bloom palette in this tutorial. So I'm going to go into Charmer, which is this very top shade right here, a very light shade, and I'm going to set my concealer with that on my eyes. And by setting your concealer, you're just going to give your shadows a really smooth, even base to blend well. It's going to prevent a lot of creasing. If you were to go straight in with shadows over a liquid product, you can imagine that it would pull, it would tug, it would crease. So by just lightly setting your concealer or primer with a shadow, it's going to make your other shadows apply on top of it a lot smoother. The next step is your transition shade. So this is the shade that goes in your transition area, which is similar to the crease of your eye. So if you feel where your brow bone is and where your lid meets, that hollow of your eye, mine is right here, this is where we're going to apply that transition shade. And with the light transition colors, it's okay if they get above the crease, but as you get darker in color, you want to keep the colors closer and closer to your crease. So for transition shades, you can do anywhere from 1 to like 3 shades, as many as you personally want. Today, I'm going to go in with 3 different transition shades just to show you the difference in the building up of the color. So this transition shade is going to help us start defining our crease. So it's going to give us a more defined crease than we have naturally because it's going to put a little bit of a shadow there. And then the transition shade is also going to help all of the rest of our shadows blend evenly. So by applying some transition shades first, the rest of our shadows are going to blend a lot more evenly, a lot smoother, and it's going to give us more of a gradient effect from the dark shadows up to the light. So for transition shades, you want to pick a shade that is 1 to 2 times darker than your natural skin tone. So it can be a warmer shade, it can be a cooler shade, but you want to pick something light that is just a little bit darker than your skin tone. As you start really defining your crease and picking up darker colors to put on the outer corner, you just want to use shades that are 1 to 2 times darker than the shade you used previously. And by doing that, you're just going to create more depth and more dimension to your eyes. For my first transition shade, I'm going to go into Flower Child out of the Tartelette and Bloom palette. It's this color right here. It's just a very, very light tan shade. And I'm going to start buffing that on my largest fluffy brush into the crease of my eye. And this one will naturally go a little bit above the crease because you use a larger blending brush, and that's okay. But as you get darker in color, you want to keep that more and more precise to the crease and lower on your eye. So as the color gets darker, you want to use smaller brushes so that you have better precision to keep the darker colors in the locations that you put them, because you don't want them to go too high or you're going to get more of like a black eye effect. So I'm just going to start putting Flower Child into the crease of my eye. And when I do my eyeshadow, I like to apply in windshield wiper motions, and then I also like to do small circular motions. So when I look at the camera, you can tell that on this eye, there's just a little bit more of definition to my crease than on this eye right here. So this shade is very, very subtle, but it does start to create that shadow of a crease. I'm gonna do the same thing on this eye. And as I move from color to color, I'm going to spend as much time as I need to make sure that the shadows are blended out really, really well. So a lot of great eyeshadow application is just having the patience to blend your eyeshadows until they are blended with no harsh lines. Can we all just take a moment to welcome the lipstick that has decided to show up on my teeth in this video? Because I am dying editing this video. It happens to the best of us, guys. Sometimes blending can take a while, but it is always, always worth it. I'm going to go ahead and pick up one more transition shade for this look. I'm going to dig into Smarty Pants right here. It's very similar to the color that we just used. It's just a little bit darker. It's still in the tan, warmish brown tones, but it's a very, very light tan shade. So I'm going to pick that up on my brush, and I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did with the last color. And then before I move on to the next shade, I always just like to look in the mirror and make sure that it looks like it's even on both sides as far as pigmentation and how the shadows are blended. So once your transition shades are on, whether you use 1, 2, 3, however many you want, the next step is to start defining our crease. So the transition shades started to define our crease, but we want to start going in with smaller brushes and darker colors to really start defining that crease. So like I said before, when I start really wanting to define my crease, I'm going to pick a color that is 1 to 2 shades darker than the color that I applied for my transition shade. So as we start defining my crease, I'm going to go into Sweetheart. It's this darker mauve shade right here, and I'm picking up a smaller brush. This is a Morphe M505, and I'm going to keep this color more concentrated right in that crease and in the hollow of my eye. And with darker shades, I apply them first to the outside of my eye and go back and forth a little bit until I have less product on my brush, and then I will start bringing them fully into the crease all the way across the eye. So when you start defining your crease, that's really when you can start enhancing or changing the shape of your eye. So I'm going to go into Sweetheart on a more precise blending brush, and I'm going to start blending that just on the outer corner, and then when I have less product on my brush, I'm going to bring it into my crease. Go back and forth, windshield wiper motions, and also small circular motions. So I'm going to keep mine today just right in line with the natural shape of my eye. If you want to elongate your eyes and make them look a little bit longer, more of that cat eye effect, then you would just start to pull your shadows and flick them out a little bit on the outer edge, and that will give you a more elongated looking eye. If you have hooded eyes and you don't have a defined crease, you'll want to start placing your crease shade right above where your natural crease would be. So when you open your eyes and you can't see your crease anymore, you would place your shadow right above that. And by doing that, you're going to create a more defined crease than you have naturally. My eyes are just partially hooded, so I'm just going to keep this shadow right in my natural crease. You can see that this shade is really starting to define this area right here. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And with each color, I just make sure that I apply it as many times as I need to until I reach my desired pigmentation. And then I just make sure that I blend everything really, really well. One thing I like to do to make sure that my eyeshadow is blended really well is to grab another blending brush that hasn't been used. This blending brush is bare and it has no product on it. And I'll just go over the edges of the shadow that I've already applied, just very, very lightly. And I'll start to really, really blend those out. And by doing this, it just really helps to make my eyeshadow really, really blended and even. So with each step, I like to go back and grab this brush and just do a little bit of extra blending. The next color that I'm going to use to really define my crease is Rebel. It's a dark mauve red shade right here. And I'm going to pick that up on a Morphe M562. I love this brush for defining the crease or really blending out a cut crease look. This is a really awesome crease brush because it is so, so small. So I'm going to grab a little bit of Rebel with this, and then I'm going to start applying it right in my crease or even a little bit lower. So as I pick up darker shades, I want to keep them closer and closer to my crease so that it really starts defining that crease. So this little tiny brush is really going to help to just put the product right where we need it. So just in the crease of our eye. And if I look forward, you can see that this crease is a lot more defined now than this one. Even though they all have the same shadow except for the one that I just applied, this one really, really starts to define that crease. I'm going to do the same thing on this eye, just keeping the color right in that crease. I don't want to blend this color up because it's going to go too high. But since we want to keep darker colors closer to the crease, I'm blending this shadow out side to side. And then when I go in circular motions, I'm blending it down slightly. I'm not taking it down too far. I just want to keep it really close to where I'm placing it, but I don't want to blend it up at all because that is going to give you more of that black eye, too dark effect if you start bringing it too high into your crease. Another tip to remember when you're doing your eyeshadow is to keep your shadow from going past the corner of your eye. So if you place a brush on your nose to the corner of your eye, to the end of your eyebrow, you don't want any product to go past this point because that can actually start to make your eyes look droopy. So you want to keep the product right here. If your eyeshadow happens to go past that point, all you have to do is take a makeup wipe if you don't have your foundation on yet, or some translucent powder, and just wipe that away. You do want to make sure that it doesn't go any farther than the corner of your eye and the tip of your brow because that can make your eyes look a little droopy. And then I am going to do a little bit more of a smoky eye today because I feel like when you're first starting out in makeup, that is what most people want to learn how to do, is just an easy smoky eye. So I'm going to pick up that same Rebel shade on that same small crease brush that I used, and then I'm just going to start applying that on the outer corner. So I'm just going to stamp it and lay it right on the outer corner of my eye. And before I blend any of it out, I'm just going to build up the pigmentation a little bit, and I'm going to do it on both sides. And then I'm going to start going in windshield wiper and circular motions up into where we applied this color into our crease. And you can see that that is going to start giving you that smoky eye look. Now I'm going to grab that bare blending brush that I use just for blending, and I'm going to really lightly blend out these edges. So I'm going to go all the way around to the corner of my eye, with just barely any pressure on the brush at all, and just start really blending out the edges. I like to go back in with this blending brush for just about every color that I apply, just to really help my eyeshadows blend well. This really helps me blend my eyeshadow. This has been a really, really helpful tip for me, so I just wanted to share it with you guys. Blending really is key. Sometimes blending takes a while, so you just really have to be patient, because to me that is one of the most important steps of great eyeshadow application, is just having the patience to blend all that you need to. So then again, I'll look in the mirror and just make sure that the colors are even on both sides, and if they're not, I'll go in and try to even that out. So our next step is to apply a color over our lid. Today I'm going to grab my Wet n Wild concealer brush. It's a very small concealer brush. And I'm going to go into Funny Girl, which is this shimmery gold shade right here. And I'm going to start applying that to my lid. So I'm going to take it from the inner corner, and I'm just going to trace my crease up to that darker color. And for glitter shades, I like to pack them on and then start blending them out. And if you want the glitter to be more intense, you want it to be more of a metallic look, you can spray your brush with some MAC Fix Plus or use some eye drops, and that will really intensify the pigment and the shine of the shadow. So I'm just tracing my crease from the inner corner of my eye all the way to here. So that's where I'm going to stop, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other eye. Just start packing it and just keeping it right along that crease line. And then to blend the gold shimmer shadow into the outer corner shadow, I'm going to pick up the brush that I used for Rebel, the color that we put on our outer corner, and without putting any more product on the brush, just what's left over from when we applied Rebel to our outer corner, I'm just going to lightly blend into that shimmer shade, just to blend it evenly and make sure that there's no harsh lines. So I just went over that really evenly, but you can tell on this eye how it's a lot more blended in this area than this eye. This eye has a definite line between the outer corner and the glitter. So just like the other eye, I'm just going to very, very lightly blend into that shimmer shade. And then we're ready for our next step, which is our inner corner and our brow bone highlight. So you want to apply a lighter shade. It can be matte, it can be metallic, it can be satin, whatever you want, to the inner corner. And by applying a really light shade, it's really going to brighten up the eye and draw the light and the attention of your face right to your eyes. By applying a brow bone highlight, that's going to make your brows look like they're lifted, which also makes your eyes look a little bit wider, a little bit brighter, a little bit more awake. For my inner corner highlight, I'm going to go into my Morphe 35O palette. I'm going to pick this shade right here. It's a very light shimmery shade. and I'm just going to use the same brush I used for the lid, and I'm just going to apply that right on the inner corner of my eye to just really brighten up that area and draw some light to that area of my face. I usually do a pretty subtle inner corner, but if you want to do something really bright, metallic, highlighted, you totally can. But since I have a really metallic shade on the lid, I'm just going to build this up a little bit more on my inner corner, and then I'm going to stop with that. So I'm going to do something a little bit more subtle today, but you can see how that just really pulls the light right to your eyes. I'm going to use that same color and that same brush to apply it under my brow bone, and you just want to start at the arch of your brow, and you don't want to take it any farther than the tip of your brow. So I'm just going to put it right here in the arch of my brow and just very lightly blend that out, and you can see how that really catches the light and helps your brows to look more lifted. So now we're ready for the last step of awesome eyeshadow application, and that is your lower lash line. So you can apply as many colors as you want to the lower lash line. You don't have to apply any. If you like how this looks without anything, you can stop right there. But if you do want to add a little bit more dimension to your eye or a little bit more smokiness to the look, you can go in on the lower lash line. So I'm going to go in with the small crease brush that we used with the darker shade, and I've wiped those off, and I'm going to go in with Sweetheart. And I'm just going to lightly dust that on my lower lash line. A lot of people with smaller eyes don't want to add anything to the lower lash line because they think that it will make their eyes look smaller, which is true if you add a darker shade to the lower lash line. But if you just add a lighter shade, one of your transition shades, then that actually widens the eye. You can see that applying a light shade like this has actually made my eyes look more round and larger. If you have smaller eyes, you can just do a lighter shade on the lower lash line and stop at that. But if you want to do something a little more smoky, I'm grabbing a pencil brush. This is the Morphe M431, and I'm gonna go into Rebel just on the very tip of the brush. And the darker the color that you get for the lower lash line, the closer you want to keep it to your actual lash line. So that last color is from my waterline to about right here is where it blended out. But with this color, I'm going to keep it right up next to my lash line. And this one I'm going to keep on the outer corner of my eye just to kind of resemble what we did on the top with the smokiness in the outer corner. And then when you're doing your lower lash line, you want to remember to connect it to the shadow on the top of your eye, and that's really going to pull your whole look together. So once I've applied the darker shade to the lower lash line, I'm going to go back in with the brush that we used for the lighter shade on the lower lash line. I haven't added any more product, but I'm just going to very, very lightly blend out that darker shade. Then to pull the whole eyeshadow look together, you can add some false lashes or some mascara. Today, I'm just going to apply some mascara. I just applied this mascara by Tarte. It's their Tarteist mascara. I chose to leave my actual waterline blank, but if you want to smoke up the look a little bit more, you can add a dark brown or black eyeliner. If you want to brighten up the look, you can add a white or a flesh-colored eyeliner, and that will make your eyes look a little bit brighter. So those are all of the eyeshadow steps and tips that I have to share with you guys today. So once again, for me personally, the things that make the biggest difference in my eyeshadow application are using the right brushes, having a really good eyeshadow formula, and having the patience to blend my eyeshadows out. Those three things and a lot of practice have definitely helped me improve. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to head over to Makinze's channel and check out her Foundation 101. Then you'll have your foundation down, you have your eyeshadow down, girl, you'll be good to go. This is just the first video in my Makeup Basics series, so if there is something specific that you would like to see, a basic technique that you would like some info on, leave it in the comments down below. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and remember, you are beautiful, you're a blessing, and I'm so thankful for you. Bye. I'm going to show you how to do this easy, simple, beginner fall makeup look.